Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Kaiserreich. We are going to get a civil war pretty soon. Most of our volunteers have either come home or are coming home. The eternal conflict in Indochina seems to be continuing eternally. In terms of wars, I will want to go support the anarchists, which I just did. But the left KMT is dead in the water. They're not really worth my time at this point. Okay. We are also, there we go. Alright, so we are probably going to choose you two. And we're going to send you in with the send volunteers. Yeah, there we go. Their fervor is high. Fervor is high. I think the fervor is probably still high. Yeah, alright. Everyone's fervor is super high. Because nobody's really lost much. Hopefully I'll be able to use those forces to their best possible advantage. We did manage to knock the Bulgarians down a peg, which should help us in the long term, maybe. We'll see. Alright, I should be. We now have enough army XP. Alright, that I should probably, A, prioritize everything. Up priority, everything except upgrades. Down priority, upgrades. And middle priority, new units. We're so in the hole on everything. Mostly in the hole on tanks and infantry equipment. We can always use more fighters. So more infantry equipment, more tanks is what we should be doing. We're currently trying to up-build civilian factories, which I am working on. Hoping that will bring victory. The advice is do it for 2 years. Alright, currently our faith is 7. Ho-ho! More faith, more good. Currently, how much faith do I have? Who knows? Currently, I have 7 faith, so 100 is a lot. I was like, boy, 7 is a lot. No, 100 is a lot. Alright, we're attending the third rationale. There used to be an option to say no. Not that that makes any sense at all. Alright, we have better trucks. Trains. That's not a truck, that's a train. Yes, we will switch production. It's 37, so we're going to do machine tools. Oh my gosh. What? Okay. What is happening? I don't know what this does. Yeah, I'll get a supply hub, I guess. Random, but sure. Well, those guys are Reds, so we're not going to actually have to fight the Finns, which is nice. We can focus our wrath on the center. Speaking of the center, I do still want to see if I can smirch the... Whoa! Mountain rifles! The need for special mountaineer training of soldiers first arose in the 1840s, when the Imperial Army encountered troops of the Imam Shamil in Dagestan. Mobile and adapted to fighting in the mountains, the locals waged an efficient hit-and-run resistance. Now the mountain units of the Russian army draw a good third of their soldiers from the inhabitants of the northern Caucasus. Their main part has been serving as peacekeeping and garrisoning forces in the OSKAB. The recent decision of the Stavka has changed the approach of training of mountain riflemen in preparation for a likely larger war in Europe. From 1935 onwards, the mountain infantry and cavalry began to undergo training for combat operations in rugged and wooded terrain, and divisions received new mountain guns and mortars and gear specifically made for military mountaineering. The new training regime emphasizes physical performance, which includes mountaineering and snowshoeing. A notable advocate for the mountain rifles is the famous athlete alpinist, Poruchuk Alexander Ignatievich Sidorenko, a former Cossack who joined a mountain cavalry regiment. The new School of Military Mountaineering and Skiing, SHVAGLD, was founded based on Poruchik Sidorenko's proposal to the Stavka, with Sidorenko himself as a climbing instructor for his forces over Elbrus and beyond. Okay. Oh boy. The 1937 Workers' Olympiad. Today, the 1937 International Workers' Olympiad is opened in Birmingham. The ceremony was attended by dignitaries and athletes from the entire socialist world. After a parade through the host city, a mass gymnastics event followed that ended up drawing a crowd of tens of thousands of people. Over the next few days, athletes, both from local and from abroad, will participate in countless events such as athletics, cycling, and football. Organized by the Socialist Workers' Sport International, the IWO was conceived as the antithesis of the bourgeois Olympic Games, where theirs are a showcase of elitist competition. Our games are based on mass participation and friendship between peoples. That difference in conception sure has shown its effect on the attendance numbers. What a glorious day for the working man. Fatherland Front takeover in Bulgaria. Okay. I don't know what that means. To the villages! The new party initiative, To the Villages, has generated much interest in urban socialist circles towards the idea of modernizing the countryside both ideologically and materially. The duality of technological backwardness and poor education are seen as the main causes of rural discontent. There is already a program to modernize methods of rural production, but as the ideological side will be led by young, enthusiastic students who are now sent to the village to work and to teach the people the doctrine of socialism, and how it is actually the natural state of the people of the Russian countryside, while capitalist private property is an anomaly introduced by serfdom. These organizers have also taken up the task of building rural branches for socialist parties to better involve the peasants in local administration. And the posters preach the union of the workers and are trying to paint the church and independent landowning peasants as leeches in the side of peasant communes. There have also been initiatives to found new rural schools and higher agricultural schools, which would educate the new ideologically conscious rural working class. The reaction to these projects varies greatly, from lukewarm acceptance to outright hostility. As Chernyshevsky believed, through education and not bayonet. It's like people are like, to like, Our friends are home. Oh yeah, we also lost all our Cossacks. I think we should probably convert these cav divisions to, like, the guard divisions. Might as well. And that would mean they're, yeah, we don't really need cavalry. Communist synthesis! Why did we, the Russian Social Democratic Labor Movement, fail 20 years ago? Many, especially amongst Mensheviks, argue that one cannot skip through the phases of history. That one cannot force the material conditions necessary for the creation of the revolutionary class consciousness of the masses. The Nechavian and justifies all mentality of Comrade Lenin only served to unify the forces of reaction against the revolution and cause much of the proletariat to lose faith in it. Our calls for the democratic development of socialism were not heeded. The Western success of mass organizations of the industrial workers serves as proof of the great revolutionary potency of the labor union movement, organized through syndicalist principles. This would not have been possible in the Russia of 1917, with our unfortunately primitive material conditions. However, the past 20 years have seen tremendous rise in Russia's industrial It is very funny, the history of the Russian revolutions in this world. Third time's the charm, I guess. Anyways, through hard work, a rise in the strength of its labor unions, and in the class consciousness, only strengthened by repression. In 1917, we said, Russia is not ready. But in 19 37, I say, the working masses of Russian. We are more than in 1917. We are bolder in political will and stronger in organization. We do not need terrorists or agitators anymore to build communism in Russia. We do not need a vanguard of self-appointed leaders of the workers. I believe that the Russian proletariat of our decade is capable of governing through grassroots democracy, following the bright light of the West, and building Russia towards the inevitable communism of the future. Vladimir Ostapovich Latevsky in the Congress of the All-Russian Union of Labor in 1937. All theory, no action. Oh boy. The new Russian peasant. The Russian land ownership situation has changed drastically since 1917. The Civil War, 1920s and 1930s land reforms, and the recent distribution of the remaining large estates created a Russia of middle peasants. If in 1917 typical rural families were impoverished tenant farmers or cottagers, the average Russian peasant in 1937 is far more like his contemporaries in Poland or Finland. Desolate small farmers still exist. Most of them are what would have been classified as serednyaks, middle peasants, or kulaks, high-income peasants. Bednyaks, low-income peasants, and batroks, landless rural folks, no longer form the overwhelming majority of the rural population. This carries a number of consequences. The peasants are more independent, more organized, and less radical, but also often view socialism positively, courtesy of the long work of the socialist revolutionaries as Russia's foremost peasant party. But this peasant socialism is hostile to collectivization or drastic changes to land ownership. Quite the contrary. As to them, an ideal socialist peasant would be an independent peasant tilling his land with no landlords or tenants. The peasantry generally support the SRs or remain apathetic, apolitical, or secretly counter-revolutionary, especially in regions where the church still holds great power in the minds of the simple folk. How kind. The SR program of municipalization of land is generally viewed positively, as it means that all land is managed by the community, which distributes it to families, often in practice permanently. However, some economists, such as Sergei Dabrowski, pointed out that this kind of rural policy is very inefficient at actually mechanizing and industrializing rural production, and larger farm units and commune farms would be needed. He and other communists advocate for large farm units to rationalize farming and grow production numbers significantly. Some would even wish to expand this policy to all of Russia, but it's obvious that it would face massive resistance. Ah, the rustic heart of Russia. What's up? Bolsheviks in the officer corps. Lacking political influence, the Bolsheviks have identified the military as one venture of gaining power. Frunze and Tukhachevsky met with Yuri Sablin with a proposition. Given the mass retirements of officers from the Russian army, experienced commanders are in short supply, while the political leaders talk of downsizing the army and creating a people's militias. Military men like Frunze and Sablin, polar opposites on almost every other subject, understand the value of experienced disciplined officers. Many former exiles have been educated in French and British military academies and have plentiful military experience not only from Russia, but also from Britain. It's obvious the Bolsheviks see this as a method for increasing their own influence and to propagate their message within the ranks of the military, but the need for officers is real, and the matter is largely up to Sablin. He would personally have nothing to do with these murderers of SRs, but then again, it's not like all the Bolsheviks are fanatics. Keep them away from the important posts. Promote some, but demand they stay away from politics. They prove to be capable revolutionaries indeed. Promote some, but demand they stay away from politics. I really could use some stability, though. That would be nice. What does having no stability do? Nothing good. It's quite bad. Alright. Who are we fighting? Probably want to go to Granada. Throw that granat in. Oh, nice. Peru, Bolivian Confederation restored. Okay. Xinjiang Click has been annexed. Okay. So it goes. Irmo! I think Irmo cannot receive volunteers, yes. Alright. Have fun losing, because you always do. You're like scripted to lose. Logistics company! That seems useful. Okay, 37. Time to disperse our industry. Okay, the war has begun. Okay. Is Bukhara even still in our faction? No. We don't have a faction, right? Okay. The Second American Civil War. To those not in the know, it might seem like the crisis in the United States came out of nowhere, but experts agree this was a civil war years in the making. Since the collapse of the New York Stock Exchange in 1925, the economy of the United States has been sluggish and mired in deep recession. Now the United States is clapped in all-out civil war between the supporters of the federal government, the Workers' Congress of America, and the right-wing American People's Government. Volunteers pouring in from around the world to support one faction or another, with some characterizing the bitter ideological conflict as simply part of a wider global clash of ideals. The destiny of America is at stake, or world tension. RIP Mingan insurgency. Muted response from, and yes, you may resupply. Muted response from. Okay, Indonesia's declared war on the Dutch East Indies. These Dutch East Indies. How many guys can I send? 3. Okay. I don't like how few vehicles these guys have, but, you know. Oh, we should also boop boop. And then boop boop. And then, do that. Okay, unit response from Bukhara. While Bukhara is technically recognized as an independent nation with its own protected sovereignty and domestic policy, the truth is firmly within the Russian sphere, bound by treaties of alliance and friendship, and monitored by a veritable cadre of Russian advisors and agents. Those emissaries of Russian rule are integral to the maintenance of the Bukharan state, but it's equally true their loyalties lie squarely with Moscow, and that they monitor their hosts closely for any signs of independent-minded ambition. Our recent reports from agents in Bukhara have streamed in as normal, detailing anti-bandit campaigns in the countryside, hostile troop movements on the Turkestan and Afghanistan border, and demonstrations within the city of Samarkand. However, there are some worrying signs within. Notes that the reporting advisor was not invited to a response meeting, vague allusions to the increased influence of anti-Russian figures within the court, and some typical reports outright missing. It appears that while there have been no serious moves to undercut our control, the Bukharans are purposely boxing out our levers of power within their government. Of course, we cannot exactly invade our ally because our feelings are, but we can begin preparing a response just in case the situation escalates concerning. Okay. Anyways. We are sending volunteers. Bukhara is not really within our influence anyways. Once we're done with this fundamental law of land socialization, we probably need to do some other stuff. Okay. Should probably get self-determination of the peoples. Probably Eastern Vanguard? Yeah, that seems good. Huh. Alright, I guess we probably want to go self-determination, defensism, red stars shining. Eventually we'll do liberate Turkestan. Prepare the March of Liberation. Hey, we have a lot of stuff we need to do, don't we? Well, at least we crushed these guys at Almira. I think we probably want to try slicing down. It's actively in our best interest to try to not, like, extend the front line with, the Carlists. It's actively bad. How are we doing on, everything? Excavation! Indonesian National Revolution. You can't keep people oppressed for centuries. Well, I mean, you can, but this is what happens when you do. Indonesia! Not exactly high priority, but sure. We'll send some guys to go hang out in Indonesia. We'll send mountaineers because sending tanks would be, not smart. Okay. Probably an anti-tank. We'll need it at some point. Might as well get it now. Alright, we're gonna wait. It's probably in our best interest to not try to move. Woo! Okay. The People's Militia System. The transformation of the law enforcement has been drastic. Russian civil police have never made a secret of their anti-communism, and it is no surprise that police officers were often supportive of reactionary politics. Thus, the decree of Boris Kamkov's government, the civil police have been abolished and its functions transferred to the Directorate of People's Militia, UNM, under the People's Ministry of Internal Affairs. People's militias have been organized in every urban center, and Volost is a voluntary law enforcement force. They've also been given military training and serve as a reserve pool for the army. I don't know if it's a great idea to mix those, but whatever. Militia officers are appointed by the local Soviet for men of good standing and necessary level of education. Further educated in civic policing, the militia schools, in many cases former police academies. The rank and file of the militias are only called to service when necessary. More serious or political crimes are relayed to the VGPU, which can utilize militias as eyes, ears, and arms. Place ideological requirements for membership. Membership should only be based on ability. I would love more stability. That would be awesome. But that is going to have to be it for today. I will see you later in the next episode. Goodbye.